Hi y'all, I'm Amber, welcome back to Cat Streets, and today I'm going to share with you a book review. The book that I finished this week is Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher, the book one in the Codex Alera trilogy, or series I believe. When I began this book, I was really thinking that I was going to like this because the magic system, the world building, and the story is really strong and wonderfully done, and I just loved how complex it all was, but it was accessible to the reader. He was just able to really describe it and make it feel very natural in how he's described everything. So he had that going, but then what was really frustrating was his not really knowing what he was really writing. Was he writing adult fantasy? Was he writing a YA fantasy? How do we know? I have no clue. There's a lot of adultish themes going on here, playing out, but he never really went all the way. He never really stuck with the YA type fantasy. It was just really weird because there's adult things going on, but it read like a YA novel, which really peeved me off because, for one thing, I do not want to read YA anymore, and I just have a lot of frustration with YA. The fact that he just couldn't make up his mind was a huge factor in my dislike for this book. But the one other factor that really got me was the fact that he threw in this weird romance between two of the characters, and I didn't really appreciate it because it was just out of nowhere. It was very insta-lovey, and it just didn't make sense with the story. I was really appreciating that he didn't make there a love interest between the two main characters, Tavi and Amara, but instead he throws in this left field romance that really had no bearing into the story. It felt like he was just thrown in there for specific people, which kind of annoys me. Also, he had no subtlety in how he would go about talking about women, specifically in the whole feminist type thing where he would make a big deal about how women can do everything that a man can do, and it was all in your face. Everywhere you turn, he was shouting it from the rooftops, and it just kind of frustrated me because there was no subtlety. And people can get your message with subtlety. Your readers are not that dumb. Please don't throw it in the reader's face all the time. It's just one of those things where it really bothers me. I don't mind reading a book where the author is a feminist and is trying to bring out that point, that message, but it has to play naturally with the story. And I was very happy at the beginning because one of the main characters is a woman, and that woman is very strong and independent and can do all these things, but then he would throw in all these other things that just took away the awesomeness of it for me because, like I said, there was no subtlety in his message. I also felt like there were too many perspectives. Although I loved Ivana, who was my favorite character, and I loved her perspective, there's just too many. This story has a focal point. It has one linear story, really, and I didn't feel like a lot of these perspectives were necessary. Amara and Tavi's perspective were the most important, and if he had stuck with that, it would have helped, and it would have kept the story going, and I wouldn't have felt like there's just too much things clogging up the story. Maybe Vidalia's perspective could have been thrown in here and there, but again, like I said, there's just too many perspectives. That there were too many perspectives hurt the character building and really getting to know the characters, because this is not really a long book, and in that short amount of time you don't really get to know these people all that well because of the fact that there's too many characters. I would really have loved a book about Ivana. That was his best character, and she was my favorite, like I said. So if it had been a story about her and he focused on her, then I probably would have loved this book a whole lot more. That being said, I might try out one of his other series because his world building are really good, but he does know how to create a world. He knows how to write them out, and maybe if I picked up something that was strictly adult by him, I would enjoy it. But this book was a disaster for me. So in the end, I gave it 2 stars. Comment below if you've read Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. Do you agree or disagree with me? I would love to talk about it with y'all. Thank you all so much for watching and keep smiling.